Okay, it's day 147. This is part one, and I'm continuing my series on the Senior Executive Service. This is a civilian service that sometimes has executive positions in our military. And those are the most troublesome to me because, first of all, they could be filled by military personnel, which are a lot cheaper. But second of all, it's bringing folks in who might not have as much experience in the field in military and battle situations and bringing them in over people that have spent their careers in the military. And Lori Hammock, one of our best researchers, sent me a list of just Navy. And I clicked on the first name in the Navy, and I saw this gentleman. He's younger than I am. He's the head of Naval Air Systems Command. Now, you probably remember Naval Sea Systems Command, or NAVC, down at the Navy Yard, but this is NAV Air. It's shortened. NAV Air is the short parlance, and it's in Pax River here in Maryland. The Pax River runs the whole length of Maryland, kind of splits Maryland right down the center. So this is where all the weapons systems and so forth, and this guy spent about 20 years in the procurement business. But I'll just drill down again, which is what I love to do, and he just was seated as the new deputy commander of NAV Air. Now, again, nothing against Mr. Ahmad here, but I would like to see someone who has battle experience. I would like to see somebody who knows actually how cruise missiles work, has manufactured them, seen them in operation, rather than somebody who is an executive. Again, if you don't know at NAV Air Systems, here's NAV Air, their logo. And of course, the cruise missile and other weapon systems are what they're famous for. And here are their locations. And of course, China Lake is going to be another one of these locations. Now, I know these weapons testing facilities, I've met a lot of people from NAVC and I've met a lot of people from NAV Air in my 3D printing days. And this energetics or their weapons testing seems to be the most, if you were going to go for the corruption, it seems to be in the weapons area. I'm not sure if that's a DuPont, Dow kind of connection with going all the way back to napalm or what the reason is, but that just seems to be the area of the weapons. And because if you're at war, you sell a lot more of these than if you're not at war. So it just seems like the folks in energetics are always trying to make something happen around the world to launch these missiles. Now, I get the fact that if we buy them, we have to use them, but I don't think we need to be making up excuses to go to war. But here is Cherry Point. Here's Cherry Point, North Carolina. That's going to be another one of our ports of interest. Jacksonville, another port of interest. Port Magoo, I don't know where that is. I'm wondering if that's near San Diego. I'll have to look that up. And of course, Orlando and then Lakehurst. So there are your NAV Air locations. And here very quickly, I'll go through the resume. Here he is at Senior Executive Service. He went here locally at College Park, Maryland. Just recently, Deputy Commander, which is a pretty high-level position. Again, could be filled by a Navy guy at much less money. The guys who drive ships, for instance, these captains of these aircraft carriers make less than this guy makes. But here he is in beginning of 2009. I'm not saying he's a Hillary appointee, but he's doing all that purchasing of weapons systems and so forth for 8 years. That means 8 years ago, 10 years ago, actually now almost, he was doing all the maritime patrol and reconnaissance aircraft. Again, no pilot experience. You would think someone who had been a pilot, who had done a lot of patrol, like an Eric Prince, who runs, Blackwater, something like that, would know a lot more about reconnaissance aircraft. Again, I'm just going on the principle that if you've used the equipment in a battlefield situation, you're going to have the best feedback about procurement. It just makes sense. And again, going back here on further in his career, doing heads-up display systems for different types of pilots and so forth, just seems to be, again, operational experience. Now, this black belt has come up. You might have remembered the gal who said, "Not your turn to burn," with the gas cans that we met a couple of days ago was a General Electric Six Sigma. The idea here, the sigmas are points of defect. So 1/10 of your product is defective, 100th of your product 1,000th of your product. 1 in 100,000 is Six Sigma. So that's the idea behind that. And they have this thing called black belt. And a lot of this is being used to make up for or be used in place of real world expertise. And you can give somebody this black belt signification, and all of a sudden that allows them to become a senior executive. And I think a lot of this is overplayed tremendously. Again, he starts at PAC, he starts at these Naval Air Systems, going all the way back about 13 years now. Again, and then here's his education at the University of Maryland till 85. So we have one of those gaps again in the resume from 85 to 2004. We don't really know what happened. Again, we need to drill down on all the SES folks for this gap. I'm sure there's some background maybe in the military. I can't imagine him not having some Navy experience to just jump right into buying projects for Pax River. But again, I think with this program, with these civilians coming in, and then it's kind of has this unionizing aspect, we don't need a union in the middle of our military, which has to be responsive.